Namaste, folks. We're going for a relatively quick chair yoga class. I will pause enough to do modifications. But start by just stacking up your bones and notice what you're feeling right now. Include sensations through the body. Notice your breath, energy levels. Any persistent thoughts, just bring yourself back to the body. Then let's go to Urdhva Hastasana. So that's upward hands. If you want to move in and out, absolutely. Up on the inhalation, back down as you exhale. If you want to stay in Urdhva Hastasana, also absolutely. You're doing what's right for you in this day, in this moment, not in what you used to do, you wish you could do, and all that other stuff. Sits bones firmly planted and wide. Elbows, little fingers going up as much as your shoulders will allow. And yes, if the work in the arms is lengthening the spine so that your torso expands vertically, let it happen. One more deep breath into your rib cage. And then come on out. If you have a desk in front of you, or a footstool, or I'm going to use a second chair, go for it. Take your legs wide. Now, if you're able to take your legs wide and extend them, sure, go for it. If that is not an option for you, take your legs wide. If taking your legs wide is not an option, if you can fold forward and get your hands on something that's preferably equal height, and higher is okay. Lower, if you're really flexible, sure. But we want an arch in your back. We're in a seated version of Prasarita Padottanasana. I'm going to extend my knees. And we're emphasizing the cow shape, the extension in your spine. So you're rolling your sits bones back and wide. Using the hands pressing gently, if that's within your capabilities, to pull, so pressing into the surface and then pulling to bring your chest further, if you're low, further forward. If you're on the diagonal, further higher. So we're distributing an arch through the spine. So one of the possibilities, if you have a footstool, is that you can go lower, stack of books, those files that haven't gotten in the cabinet yet. So you're kind of in a halfway place, because we would love to have some amount of forward fold in the hip joint. But again, the arch in the spine is what we're really after here. One last breath, pulling those arms a little further backwards or downwards on the diagonal. Find a little more extension. And on an inhalation, come on up. Let's move into Parshvakonasana. So, various possibilities for the legs. Limited in movement, or perhaps by the shape of your chair, or by your own physical capabilities. If you can turn in the chair, go for that. Leave one knee, the direction that you faced in, bent. See if you can extend the other leg. Now, if you can start to take it a little bit away from this forward knee, yay, but you're doing what you can do. If you can turn all the way and you have the ability to just hang out with one leg on the chair and the other leg opens way behind you, you have a very big stance. You can also use the diagonal on the chair if you are not able to go all the way across for any reason. So we're again, we are doing what we can in a chair in the situation we're in. Then same elbow as your bent knee, and you're going to use that to twist the rib cage as much as your rib cage is going to allow you to twist today. And then the other arm, if you're able, up and over to What would be Urdhva Hastasana if we had two arms? So Pajva Konasana, side angle pose, we're extending all the way from what I'm calling the back leg through that upper arm with the twist to open through the torso. So this bottom side is not collapsing just because the top side extends. Right? So those of you who have shoulder limitations, if you need to reach on this diagonal, sure, go on the diagonal rather than right alongside the ear. Again, you're doing what you can. If you are limited in strength, remember bending the elbow will help with the weight of the arm. When you're ready to come out of it, swing the arm first, inhale, bring yourself up, and then decide which of those versions of leg alignment works for you to take the second side. Let me get a chair out of it. So you'll notice, if possible, both my feet are turned in the direction that I twisted. Right? So again, elbow to the thigh or the knee, rib cage opening toward the ceiling. Some of you may feel like, oh, I just want to lie right down and put my hand on the floor. Yes, that is fair game if you want to go there. Arm alongside the ear if you can. And if you want to look up toward the ceiling, sure, go for it. Just make sure that it's not overdoing the neck. This twist in the ribs is part of what allows you to look toward the ceiling. So mind that lower shoulder, right? Is it collapsing up towards your ear? Keep that sense of shoulder blade connected to the back of the ribs and gently pressing down onto that thigh. You're not leaving bruises, please. So again, feel that reach from the back leg through the torso, up into the fingertips. Take a deep breath, fill the lungs, even the back of the lungs, especially the back of the lungs. And then let it go by swinging the arm, bring yourself up, come on back to whatever your version of neutral is. So a desk is ideal for the next posture. We're doing a seated version of Adho Mukha Svanasana. I don't have a desk. If I did, I would be reaching across my desk as much as possible and resting my forehead on the edge of the desk. Now, a possibility with a chair, if you have enough pillows, is to create a bit of a support for your head. Those of you who are able to stand but aren't interested in getting down on the floor, just use your chair, and it's really an Ardha Uttanasana, half intense forward fold. Or you can go a little bit lower with the hands if you have that ability. What's important in this version of your downward dog is to be able to extend through the torso. So if you're staying seated, widening your legs will allow you to fold at the hips more easily and give space for your torso between the thighs. Here, instead of having the palms facing each other, the hands are down. Palms are facing down toward whatever surface, floor you're working with. Think of backing your sits bones up on the chair. So you're pulling your hips away from your arms, which are glued to whatever they are touching. And when you're ready to come out, big inhalation, let the arms soften, come on back up. And again, find whatever your neutral is. Let's go into opening the hip. So again, a couple of possibilities here. Easiest on the forward edge of the chair. If that's not available to you, do what you can. In that case, foot under the chair if that's possible. This chair has a bar. It doesn't allow me to do that. But it would if I could take my foot over the bar. Again, for some of you, I know that's not within your capabilities. So again, if you're toward the front of the chair, foot is far under the chair as the chair will allow you to go. The other leg is staying straight. And then we're going to take the legs as wide as you're able to get them. So those of you who have more mobility and can shift, you can take yourself to a place where one leg slides off the edge of the chair. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see what could be happening there. There are a couple of possibilities. So you are still sitting on the chair. You can, if you're able to, extend that back leg, or you can just leave the knee down. You can also do this on the diagonal on the chair. That's the choice I'm going to make here, because I would like to widen my leg a little bit. And then you're going to lean down and use your elbow to press into that forward thigh while the thigh presses back. We want to wake up the inner thighs here. So for those of you who are here, right, even if your foot doesn't go far under the chair, you're still getting that inner thigh awakening. Those of us who are able to extend the legs, we're also getting just a little bit of extra in that back hip as well. Now, if this is challenging, remember you can press and release, press and release, press and release. And we're going to release because if you've been there for a while, you've been there for a while. And then decide what's appropriate for you on the second side. And again, elbow is pressing on the inside of the thigh. And you keep breathing. If you have your back leg extended, that back leg is as strong as you're able to make it. So perhaps you can push the toes into the floor. Perhaps you can reach the heel backward. Perhaps you can lift the inner knee up toward the ceiling. But really keep the focus on this front inner thigh. It's pressing into the elbow. You can also get a sense of it pulling backwards into the torso. So if your nervous system is saying, I don't know what to do, I don't get this, just keep that picture of your thigh bone going backwards towards your bottom, toward the back of your hip joint, and keep that sense of arm and thigh pressing into each other. And eventually your nervous system, it starts through all the data that it's got, and it comes up with solutions. And then let it go. Come on back to whatever your neutral is. Notice what you feel. Notice what's woken up. Good luck with English. We're going to go into curling up. So for some of us, that just means we're curling up here. You can put your feet up, perhaps on a footstool, perhaps on a second chair, which is the choice I'm going to make. And, you know, if you can pull the chair in, sure, right? But you're basically just hugging your knees, tucking your nose and your forehead into your knees. And then breathe deeply into your back. We're kind of limiting. We're exactly like limiting our breathing into the front of the torso. So you'll have to let the breath go to the back of the lungs, to the sides of the lungs, which is not a bad thing for your breathing. So again, this is a seated version of Balasana, your child's pose. We're getting as close to a fetal position as we can get here. Keep letting the breath expand your back. This, by the way, can be a lovely resting pose through the day. Just a chance to curl up and make the world go away for a bit. Reconnect with yourself. And for the moment, come on out, uncurl. This is a good point at which you can put feet up on a footstool. Again, I'm going to use a second chair. We're headed into Baddha Konasana, which is that bound angle pose. We're bringing the soles of the feet together. So those of you who have no foot prop or no ability to get your legs up on the foot prop, you are not out of the game here. You just let your knees widen as much as your hips will allow, as much as your chair perhaps will allow, right? So that maybe you're on the outer edge of your feet and your soles of your feet are together. I'm going to stay here with all y'all on this one. And then we're just going to rock back and forth. So let me turn this a little bit. We're rocking from the hip joint. So we're rolling our pelvis, our hips around our thigh bones. For those of you for whom this is an easy movement, you may decide you want to fold all the way forward into your Adho Mukha Baddha Konasana, downward facing fixed angle.
And yes, you could, some of you may even feel like you're happy to do this with your feet up on the chair, in which case, yay. The rest of us would love to be able to see that so that we have an image in our minds, and then we can just kind of plant that image in our nervous system to eventually work toward. But notice where you are now and celebrate where you are now. We can get way too caught up in the we want to get to. You are attaining right now, right here. And when you're ready to come up, big inhalation.
Notice how your hips are doing. Find your neutral again. Fidget for a moment if you need to. That's part of the check-in. The worst advice you ever had was sit still and shut up. I know, it's part of life in certain places. Don't do it everywhere through your life. Let's do one more. So again, a surface forward will help, but I'm going to do that without a surface forward because we really don't need it. As long as you can get a certain amount of folding forward, you'll be able to do this on towards your thighs, right? So if you have a desk in front of you or a second chair, sure, go for it. Here's the game we're going to play. Try to touch your elbows behind you. They will not. Lifting your hands up. And then you're going to let your back release forward. Keep the hands lifted. And then you'll arch your back. Keep the hands lifted. Let it release as you exhale. Lift your chest and arch as you inhale. Be careful that you don't turn this into, I'm going to lift my head and I'm doing it all with my neck, right? We want to find how do we lift the top of the shoulders up there at the back and then let them go. And for some of us, it's a really small movement. And for some of us, those muscles between our shoulder blades, the ones that are keeping our hands lifted, are getting really, really, really tired. And if they are yelling at you, if they are burning, if things are shaking, it's time to stop. Just let your arms come back down and you can rest curled up a little bit over your thighs. If you can do a couple more arching, we're strengthening those back muscles that help hold us erect. And then feeling them soften again as we let go. And one more. Engage those muscles, find your arch. Look up over your chair forward or your desk. And then release. Finally, let the arms go. Oh my goodness, right? And then bring yourself back to your neutral. So if the muscles on the back are feeling like they need something right now, you may feel like, oh, let me just arch my back. That's going to feel really good. Yeah. Maybe helpful eventually, but start with a little bit of twisting because that will more gently release them. Do a little bit of side bending. That will also more gently release them. And then, if nothing feels all grouchy, you can go into that rounded cat shape. Meanwhile, thank you for tuning in. Great job doing something for yourself. I will not be doing these for a couple of months. Go back to the older material. It will benefit you to review and repeat. There's always more to discover, even after 50, 60 years of yoga. Enjoy the rest of the day.